Hey, what's up guys? Let's try to explain operator. Operator is an FM synth. Let me just drop in my signal analyzer. I encourage you to use one as well. So operator is an FM synth, which means frequency modulation. You are already an expert in modulation. You understand that it is a change over time, and frequency is pitch, so it modulates the pitch. So we have 4 operators here, and I want to go over routing really quickly. So right now we have it's A, B, C, and D. D goes into C, C goes into B, and B goes into A, right? And we can change the routings to all of our sorts of whatever. So what do you have to think about is you think about each of these as an LFO, right? So we have our sine wave for our oscillator 1. All right. We have oscillator 1 here, right? We have another sine wave here. Right, so I'm just going to turn fixed off, right? So we have an LFO, quote unquote, at 10 hertz. So we'll have our sine wave vibrating at 10 hertz, right? And this is how you would think an LFO is, right? So when we go up our pitch or whatever, right, it sounds like that. If we go into the audible range, which is like over 20 hertz. Right, we have, it just sounds like randomness. Right, it doesn't sound like anything that would be musical, right? That's because we have to have it fixed. And what fixed is, it uses a ratio and math to sync the modulation to the pitch you're playing. So A is, we're still a sine wave. When we modulate or increase the level, the modulation into from when we have A, our sine wave that we have right now, being modulated by our B operator, we will get right. Every key we hit, it's mathematically sound and it's symmetrical, as opposed to like a free-running LFO. Right, and this is how FM came about. It came about by a guy modulating sine waves with other sine waves, and he realized that you would get like interesting bell tones. So we can modulate our B operator with C. And we can get some really interesting things. Right, so with that we have some very rich harmonics. It's not so much, it's 3 sine waves, and they're all locked onto each other, and you are creating some interesting sounds. You can create like bell tones, like E bass guitar, DX7 type stuff. But FM synthesis is still kind of elusive for me, but you have different routings here. All right, so I'm going to change the wave. This is how you change the wave. So I'm going to change it to a saw, or a saw. That'd be a saw square. Let me go. Right, now we have a richer saw now. And I want to modulate that with, say, square wave. So this thing right here. Oh, not even on. So we have kind of a more aggressive sound because we're pumping a square wave into it. And it's really kind of unpredictable, not really unpredictable, how everything will go together. And when we adjust the fine tune, you get really weird stuff going on. The chorus doesn't necessarily bring it up in pitch, it just doubles the ratio. Right, and we're getting like more and more interesting sounds. So from there, each one of these has its own envelope, and what you can do with that is you can have the envelope of, each one you want have like an attack. So right now it sounds like this. But if we bring this down, it'll only play for a small increment at the beginning. Right? better example would be if they're both sine waves and we get kind of a bass guitar in theory. Alright, so we have kind of a bassy sound. Right, and there's that. So yeah, let's go into each of these. Of course, we have attack, decay, sustain, release. We have our wave selector. We can also draw in an oscillator, so we can draw in something with different harmonics, right? So we can get and have like nothing. This is kind of interesting. This is like a wave. You draw in your wave shape, right? So we have that. Then we can modulate that with a sine. I know it's really unpredictable, but it sounds pretty neat, right? And we can, go back to our sine wave. We can adjust the resolution or sample rate, I would assume, and get like digital sounds. Really unpredictable. This is exactly the same as FM8 by Native Instruments. We have our peak. That's our ADSR. We can loop the envelope. I'll give us a saw so we can hear that. Right, and it could be like another modulation source, and there's that option. We can select the phase amount, the velocity, and feedback. Yeah, so there's each operator or oscillator has its own context sensitive window here, just like an analog. All right, so we have our modulation section. So it's basically another LFO. Operator, just think of it as a bunch of LFOs. All right, so we have this LFO. It works, kind of the same way. Oh, might want to. Now it's mapped to pitch. You can get some really interesting sounds. Sample and hold, and you can re-trigger it, and you can have it sync. So you can have basically, in theory, another operator. And there's that. And retrigger means that the phase is reset every time you hit a key. So there's low, high, and sync. So it's a high rate, low rate, and we can have different kind of selection of sine. All right, we have filters. So this is default is a state variable filter. It's a unique filter. It was used in the Oberheim kind of filters. There is, low 12 dB per octave. Ladder filter, which is kind of like a Moog synth. It's good to add, a lot of nice harmonics. High pass, high state variable filter. State variable filters are very unique sounding, and your notch filter and high filter and all that, and you can turn these all on and off, and you have your envelope with your envelope amount, plus or negative. So you have, I don't know, that genre of music that rhymes with mudstep. Right, I'm not really good at it. We have our pitch envelope, which is, pitch. So the pitch amount, negative or minus, plus 100 or negative 100. You can do different things. Right. Spread, and that is basically a unison. So it'll take left and right, split it up, and then detune them slightly. A global transpose, up or down. Right, we have this. So time, it's a global rate for all envelope rates. So it's a slower, faster, so you can modulate other modulators, the speed of other modulators. Tone. I'm not really sure what that does. I'm not going to pretend that I do. Controls the high frequency content of sounds. Yeah, so it's more of a high frequency controller type guy. We have our volume, which is our overall volume. All right. So we have our context sensitive menus here. We can adjust the fade in of the LFO. It's really neat. You get a neat kind of vibrato that way, and you can have different destinations, so you can modulate other modulators that are modulating things, right? Or the filter. So it's one LFO, but it can affect basically everything. All right, I know. Same filter, yes, filter envelope, pitch envelope. We have our menu of our routing, so you can have them all free running. This would be a subtractive synthesizer, so it sounds different when they're not, rubbing up against each other. So you can use this as like a conventional subtractive synthesizer, or you can just have this, for example. C and D will modulate each other, and then A and B will act as, oscillators, and you can do subtractive synthesis that way. But it's a shame that each of these does not have its own filter. You only have one filter. But anyway, yeah. You can pan them. You can alias. So what that is that's kind of, it cleans up the sound of jaggies. I think that's what they're called. And you can turn up the high quality interpolation of the LFO. You shouldn't really worry about it because, most CPUs are powerful to run that. One voice, if you only want to play one key at a time. Yeah, you can get really interesting sounds. You can map aftertouch, pitch bend, and your mod wheel to control the amount of basically all of these. So you can have the LFO rate attached to, we'll go LFO rate attached to the mod or the pitch bend. Oh, I want to go amount. As we bend the pitch wheel up, I don't have a mod wheel, I have it right here. We can have a bit more expressiveness, and we can map the LFO rate to our velocity. And our aftertouch. Yeah, we'll go filter for aftertouch. You get some really interesting things just by having aftertouch. Aftertouch is basically, once you press a key, the MIDI key will remain active, and however much you press it down, it'll modulate. It's aftertouch. A lot of things don't have it. Push has it, but a lot of other synths don't have it. So I don't even know why I was showing you that. Pan random, yeah, there's that. We can pan things, and we can have things bounce around from left to right, and get some weird YOLO sounds. All right, hope I explained it. Yeah, the operator is not my thing, but it might be your thing. I hope you learned a lot, and hope you enjoy. All right, take care. Have a good one.